there, I'm here with Flaum, and she's got a super cool idea for using a sewing machine, but no thread. How weird is that? No thread. What are we gonna do?
No thread. This was actually discovered by accident. And first I'll show you. So many of my best ideas are absolutely accidents. So I'll show you over here on my layout here. One of the things I'm really big on is finding ways to add color and the sense of dimension without adding bulk, because my scrapbook albums get bulky enough as it is. So what I've got going on my layout here, I've got a few things. I've got black paint pen all around that's adding contrast, because with all those bright colors and white, I just really wanted something dark in there to just kind of bring it all together. And I've also got some little painted flowers. I've got some washi tape because I'm always looking for ways to use it, and I love to use a nice big strip of it as in a contrasting color to kind of add as an element. And then I've got stenciling, which we'll talk about in a moment, as well as splatters. And what I've also got here, and really you see it best in person, is I've got all kinds of little holes punched all around from my sewing machine, done without thread. And that is what I discovered. It was an accident, and I love how textured it looks on my projects. So.
Okay, but you said the magic word stencil, which I know we can see in that card right there.
I love to do techniques on cards and layouts the same, or reuse them, and I've got the stenciling and the stitching technique, or the no thread stitching technique, both on this card here, which I will show you.
Cool. So we are making a stencil, right?
We are. Now I'm not a very skilled drawer person at all. And the great thing about this is anybody can do it. None of my circles are perfectly circle. You would just take a nice permanent pen and make yourself some marks. I like to start really small and then kind of add a little bit to them, and I can kind of fix if they get really wonky. A few of them are big, a few of them are smaller. That's intentional because I want to have kind of a variety, and I didn't do tons because, as you'll see, we will be able to repeat.
Right, so I'm just gonna go ahead and I am going to scan this design right into my electronic cutter. And of course, if you didn't have an electronic cutter, you could cut this with a craft knife or with scissors. You could use paper punches. I mean, there's so many different ways to do it. So I'm just gonna go ahead and scan this into the machine. And now you were talking about what you cut the stencil out of, because I know when I think of stencils, I think of plastic stencils.
Yes, so what I cut typically, you can see this is a very, very bright green. This is a cardstock that I've had for a very long time, and one that I have not used. So when I'm gonna do a stencil, I like to use either pattern paper or cardstock that is a color that perhaps I'm not going to use in other ways. And if I want it to be really long lasting, I just coat it with some shipping tape before I cut it.
Before you cut it, which is a good idea.
Yes.
So once the machine pulls this up, which you can see it is right here, I'm gonna be able to just save my design. And once I've done that, I'm gonna cut it out. And I know you said a color that you don't use very often. However, you have, of course, given me this very pretty pink cardstock. But maybe that's not a color you like, I don't know. But I'm gonna go ahead and put that in the machine. I'm gonna cut out the stencil. And in the meantime, right, you're gonna show us exactly how to use that stencil.
Yes. So what we are going to do here is we are just going to take some ink, and it can be any dye ink, and then a makeup sponge or a foam blending tool or something like that that we can apply. And I'm just gonna set my stencil down. Now you'll notice that I left a little over an inch all the way around the design. That's so that when I go to use it, whether I'm working with a mist or an ink, I won't accidentally go right over the edge of the stencil and harm my project, because we never want that to happen.
One of the things I love about stencils is that you really can use. You can use ink, you can use paint, you can use mist, you can use stamps, you can use so many different things with that.
Absolutely. So what I like to do is I laid it there once, and I'll just move it into a completely different direction and get a new color of ink and a fresh
How much do you pay attention to what's overlapping? Do you care? Do you try to aim for something?
I am looking at this one. The only thing I'm looking at is where the large circle is, so I kind of want that to be in different places. And if it's overlapping somewhat,
turning the stencil, I see, is different directions.
Yes, I am. I'm going in all different directions and with just all different colors here. And I just love doing this because it's different every time. It's fun. And yet it's quick too. You can see how quickly that all is coming together.
And guess what? Now I have a stencil too.
You do. You can have that one. So here I've got it all stenciled. And the other thing that we can do is we can add some splatter to it. You can see here on my sample where I've just taken some
You know,
mist.
I love that touch of metallic. I really always think that a little bit of metallic just brings it up a notch and adds, again, that dimension you're talking about, because it's visual dimension instead of just, you know, actual physical dimension, which might make your books bulky or something you're mailing very bulky.
Absolutely. So now here you can see, I mean, this is so much fun. And it's a stencil that I drew. And you can't tell, I mean, it doesn't, when you look at this, you don't say, oh, look, her circles are imperfect.
I love
Absolutely
imperfect.
Well,
I love imperfect.
Absolutely. So now we really get to do the accidental part, and we get to stitch on it. So what we're going to want to do is we're actually going to stitch on the back side.
Why?
We're stitching on the back side because I want it to be a little bit of lumpy. I want that little bit of paper that the needle pierces through. I want it to be seen. So I'm just doing a straight stitch. There is absolutely nothing that we are doing extra special. I'm just gonna straight stitch right through it, and I'll just do two sides because that'll let you really see.
So does it matter what
goes.
foot you have on or anything like that?
The only thing I make sure is just make sure the stitch itself is not extra tiny, just so that the paper doesn't just tear as you go along.
So just so I'm clear, because the back feels really smooth, right? That's the side we stitched on.
That's the type.
And if we flip it over to the other side, I can feel now that because the needle pushed the paper through, it's very bumpy there. Oh, and now you're
so
taking
you
it
can
up.
really see it. If we ink up the edge, what it'll do is it'll pick up all those bumps.
I
with the
love
ink.
that. And you know what's so smart about the way you're doing this is these are the same ink pads that you use to stencil.
Yes.
So you're actually coordinating the colors without even thinking about it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then from there, we can have all kinds of fun with adding, as we saw on the card, adding stickers, adding sequins. I love to add sequins when I've got all this splattery stuff going on. And use it in so many different fun ways.
That's really cool. So if we look at this one, I know, because I want to try some of this inking out because I think it's cool. Now, I know you have big ink pads and little ink pads. Does it matter to you which one to use? Is it easier to use the little ones?
I have been collecting more little ink pads just for storage space reasons, but it makes absolutely no difference whatsoever.
So then again, now I'm holding it up, or am I putting it down on here? What's the best inking method?
I think at somewhat of an angle. So I like to start at somewhat of an angle just so I can see how it's going. And then I will get into, I like to go light it first. And then like this one has a double line. So this one I need to go a little further in, and I end up getting completely flat on there because it is so bumpy.
That's cool.
It's really
now
holding
let's look
up.
back at your finished card, which I think is so fabulous, and it has that double line of stitching. You added a little pen line in there.
Yes.
Lots of fun stuff. What a great idea, May. Thank you for bringing your accidental discovery by.